Jai Shri Radhe, Jai Gurudev. On Gurudev's instructions, we continue our reading of the first teaching of the Manah Shiksha, the teachings for the mind, by Raghunath Das Goswami, translated by Advaita Das and with the nectar commentary of Anantadas Babaji. As before, we should start our meditation on the Manah Shiksa by pausing on the very sweetness of this poem, this prayer, and the very sweetness even of its name, Manah Shiksha, teachings to the mind. And why is it so sweet? Well, it's sweet because, to begin with, there's a conversation within the heart of Raghunath Das Goswami with his mind. Someone or something is talking to the mind of Raghunath Das Goswami. So even just in the idea of this Manah Shiksha, there's a very lovely soul consciousness. There's a very, very lovely awareness that the soul and the mind are two. And there's a very sweet awareness that they are friends. That there's a relation of care. There's a relation of feeling. There's a prayer to the mind. The mind is treated as a brother, even in the very first line. And it's repeated again, actually. The mind is called a brother. So already there's a self-understanding in Raghunath Das Goswami. I know I have a mind. I know my mind can block me. And I know that my mind can help me. So let's cultivate a kindness with our minds. Let's cultivate a sweetness with our own self. Our own self that is the goal of all of our practice, our sadhana, to come into our true self, our true svarup, our spiritual identity, and assume our siddhadeha, our spiritual body. So it's not a violent project. It's not one of anger, and it's not one of resentment. It's one of kindness. So the title itself already says, be friends with your mind. Work with your mind. Cherish with your mind in the course of your spiritual practice. The mind and the soul are interconnected. The mind, we know, is subtle energy, which means it's not physical, and yet it will disappear when the physical body turns to dust. So the mind and soul are different in nature, different in energy, but they're connected. They serve different functions. The mind in the physical and material world, and the soul in spiritual consciousness. The soul transcends the limitations of the mind. The soul is the embodiment of the divine in us. The mind does not feel spiritually, and the soul does not think materially. So there's a very sweet collaboration between the two. And the last thing that's important about this conversation with the mind, this teachings to the mind, is that the mind can be directed. The soul, however, is spontaneous. The mind can be focused on whatever we like. We can think about one thing, or we can think about another thing. We can concentrate with our mind. We can meditate with our mind. We can sharpen our mind. We can think intensely. We can direct it with our consciousness. The soul, however, is an energy that we let come. The soul is for us to discover, to become acquainted with. The greatest challenge of mastering the mind is by keeping it focused on what we want it to be focused on with our willpower. The greatest challenge of communicating with the soul, of being in the soul, is to let it be what it is, to let it be spontaneous, to discover who we are, to discover what our eternal spiritual identity is. It's to let it come. It's to break down the barriers that block us from it, but to leave it untouched, because the soul is already pure and already eternal. So the mind can be directed, the soul must be discovered. We were just about to finish the first teaching. The first teaching was rather long, and now we've come to the very end of it in our last discussion. And I'll read the verse of the first teaching one more time for you. It's a very sweet reminder. And I'll remind you of its different parts. First of all, it's an opening which addresses the mind and gives respect and obeisance to the mind. And then it gives 7 small instructions to the mind, which are similar in that Raghunatha directs the mind to love. The 7 different aspects of bhakti yoga. So I'll read the verse for you and then we'll return. O mind, O brother, I hold your feet and I pray to you with flattering words. Always give up your pride and develop wonderful love for your spiritual master, the abode of Braj, the people of Braj, the saintly devotees, the Brahmanas, my initiation mantra, the holy name of Krishna, and the shelter of the eternally youthful couple of Braj, Shri Shri Radha Krishna. One thing that's very special in the way this verse is said is the instruction to the mind is give up your pride, because a mind is always prideful. Give up your pride. That means stop thinking that you are God. Stop thinking that you are everything. Stop thinking that the world is for you. Stop thinking that you are the cause of the world. So give that up. Give up your pride. And then the second instruction is develop wonderful love for these 7 things that we just said. And what's magnificent here is that the process of developing wonderful love for these 7 things is the process of walking the spiritual path towards the Svarup. If you have developed, O mind, spiritual, wonderful love for these 7 things, you will be in Svarup. You will have discovered your soul. In other words, the prayer to the mind is a prayer, if you like, to the kind of disappearance of the mind. If you truly love these 7 things, your mind will withdraw completely and you will be completely in Svarup, in your soul. So we have to direct our minds to move towards our Svarup through these 7 processes. But as we do, the mind disappears. The mind becomes light. It becomes transparent. And gradually it becomes unreal for us. The more we love these 7 things, the more the mind becomes insignificant. And yet, we must ask the mind to take us on this path. This is the paradox of spiritual practice. The mind takes us where we need to go, and at the end of our path, the mind is no longer necessary. The mind is disappeared. The mind is dissolved into the air. When we truly love these 7 things, the mind will be like vapor and gone. There'll be no more pride. So it says, Raghunath says, give up pride and develop this love, but actually, by developing love, the pride disappears automatically. So the 7 things, Guru, Raj, devotees, Brahmanas, the Brahmins, the mantra, the initiation mantra, the holy name, and finally, the loving couple. And last time, 2 weeks ago, we discussed the Brahmins and the mantra and the holy name, and we just began with our favorite subject, the loving couple. What we love to love the most. And when we come to the 7th point of the roadmap for the mind, then we've come to the most deep level of our spiritual consciousness. And we've come to the level where the mind itself is thin as paper and almost not there. And then as we reach our Svarup, the mind becomes simply like air. Before we finish this last point, let me remind you that we talked about 2 very important ideas last week. One was about what Raghunath teaches about devotion, why devotion is important, and really what devotion is. And we said that devotion is a very special mixture of love and action. Not love plus action, not I feel love in my heart, so I'll do something, and not simply action that expresses love, but the realization that in true spiritual consciousness, there is no act that is not love. When we are truly ourselves, when we are fully in Svarup, there is nothing we can do that is not love. If we make a cup of tea, it's love. If we give a hug to our wife, it's love. If we drive our car, it's love. When we're fully in Svarup, everything is love. This is the meaning of devotion. Fully realized devotion is living, acting, doing, where everything we act and do and live is love. And the second idea that came up last time was that bhakti invites us to a new understanding of what God is and of what love is. So the lesson, one of the many lessons of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his coming, is to understand that God, him, herself, is an entity that's shaped by devotion. God, Radha Mohan, needs devotion of his devotees in order to be himself, and needs devotion of Mohan needs devotion of his number one devotee, Radha, to be himself. In other words, there is no God without devotion. God is not higher than devotion. So this is something that traditional Vedic spirituality would not accept. It's something that Christianity and Judaism and Islam would not accept. They would say, first you have God, full stop, everything good, all done, and then devotion is very nice if you want to give some. No. In our Gaudiya tradition, it's the devotion itself and the love that it carries which makes God what God is. And that gives us our new understanding of what love is through Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Love is not just a passive emotion. I sit here far away and I feel love for you. Love is a kind of service. Love is a kind of giving of myself. So by service, I don't mean washing your clothes for you or carrying your luggage for you in the airport. Well, this is service too. But the most pure kind of service is that I understand what's in my heart as directed towards your heart. My heart serves your heart. We can express this by making a cup of tea for you, by carrying your baggage for you, by cleaning your house for you, yes. But the purest form is to understand that my heart is there not to be alone and be full of love. My heart is there to give love to you. And that's the purest kind of service. Okay, last time we talked about the Brahmas should be loved, the initiation mantra should be loved, and we talked about the energy that the mantra carries and how love is a form of energy, and the purest form of energy is Radharani, who's the internal energy of God himself. And then the holy name we spoke about as a kind of vibration. And then we had just turned to the loving couple. So the most wonderful task of the mind, it's so attractive that it's hardly a task at all. We do it very naturally when we are being ourselves. That is to love the loving couple. Love Radha and Mohan. And the very simple but very deep question that this request from Raghunath Das Goswami raises is, what does it mean to love a couple? If you tell me to love Radha, well, I understand that. If you tell me to love Mohan, I understand that. what does it mean to love the Yugal Kishore, the loving couple, Radha and Mohan? It means to love their relation. It means to love what they have in common. It means to love what holds them together and the energy that draws them together like a magnet. So loving the loving couple, like Raghunath asks us to do, or asks his own mind to do actually, means loving and serving prem, means loving the love of God, loving Radha's love for Mohan, serving Radha's love for Mohan, doing everything in our spiritual powers to increase that love. And that is another way of describing the job of Manjari. That's another way of describing Manjari Bhav, where all our spiritual energy as Manjaris, our devotional energy, is aimed at increasing the love between Radha and Mohan. Participating in all the sweet and silly games in the Raj Leela that help them to come together and that increase their desire for one another and therefore increase the desire in the universe. So when the mind is asked to love the loving couple, it means to be in Manjari Bhav. Manjari Bhav is love for the love of Radha and Mohan. We continue with a commentary from Anantadas Babaji, which is continuing this meditation on the divine couple and what it means to love the divine couple. If you're following along, we're almost at the end now of the first teaching. Anantadas Babaji says the following. One of the reasons for Mahaprabhu's dissension, for him coming down, for him appearing, is to mercifully bless the sinful and fallen souls of the age of Kali by giving them this intimate worship of the divine couple of Raj, which is rarely attained even by Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Uddhava, and other great souls. So one of the many reasons for Mahaprabhu's appearance is to bless the sinful and fallen souls. And sinful and fallen souls does not mean, as in the Christian or Jewish or Islam idea of evil or good or bad. A fallen soul is one who's forgotten her soul, forgotten her soul identity at all, or forgotten that her soul is naturally inclined to love. So for all of us who forgot what our nature is, the nature of every jiva is to serve through love. It's not something we have to learn or take on or read a book about, or it's something we naturally are. But we forget it, we become blocked from it through Maya, and we don't have a relation to our own soul. So one of the merciful things that Mahaprabhu does by appearing is say, look, through me, you can have a direct devotional relation with Radha and Mohan. Through me, in your presence, you can have a way of expressing your natural constitutional identity. You can be yourself, a soul being whose nature is to love. And this is something, I'm repeating Ananta Das Babaji now, this is something that Brahma, Shiva, and Uddhava, and all the other greats never had. They were always, in the case of Brahma and Shiva, they were always great and powerful reservoirs of beauty and goodness and indeed also love. And in the case of Uddhava, a great philosopher, a great intellect, who was all great souls, these four and the others. But they did not understand. They had no way of knowing that the nature of greatness is not opulence and beauty and truth and intelligence. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes and says, all that is very nice, but the highest is to have a devotional relation to the divine, starting with the divine in your own Svarup. Babaji goes on now, and he says, some may think that Mahaprabhu himself has said, and now he quotes Mahaprabhu in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Mahaprabhu says, I will make the world dance by giving it devotion to Krishna in 4 different moods. So, servanthood, fraternal love, parental love, and amorous love. So, Mahaprabhu says that, and then Babaji says, then how can you say that he only came to give intimate worship of Radha and Krishna? It's a kind of complicated formulation in the text. I'll try to explain. Babaji says, well, Mahaprabhu has said that I will make the world dance by giving everybody devotion to Krishna in these 4 moods. So Babaji says, people might ask, well, then how can you say he only came to give me worship of Radha and Krishna? Because we have these 4 different moods. The servanthood, the fraternal love, the paternal love, and the amorous love. And the answer, Babaji says, the answer to this may be that he may have said, Mahaprabhu said that, but factually, he established during his discussions with Sri Ramananda Rai and others that the worship of Radha and Krishna is the crown jewel of all human pursuits. In other words, yes, there are many different levels of devotion, many different levels of love. There's dasya, sakya, and so on and so forth. The highest of these, the crown jewel of these, is the devotion to Radha and Mohan, the crown jewel of all human pursuits. By exercising our hearts, by giving devotion through these 4 different moods, the service mood, the brotherly mood, the parental mood, and so on, we are walking along the path towards the sweetest and highest mood of Radha and Mohan. And now Babaji cites Madhya Lila, chapter 8 and 9, which is also the same part where Mahaprabhu is having a discussion with Ramandarai about the nature of bhakti. He cites, he himself, as well as his direct disciples, the 6 Goswamis, who are the acharyas of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, mainly practiced and preached amorous love for Krishna as the highest attainment. And their books are filled mainly with this topic. Now, Babaji goes on, how Srila Raghunath Goswami was immersed in worshipping the divine couple in Manjari Bhav can be clearly experienced as we go on discussing the Stavavali prayers, this book of prayers written by Raghunath Goswami. Babaji continues, it has been ascertained in various ways by the Goswamis who carry Sriman Mahaprabhu's teachings in their throats that simply by worshipping Shri Krishna without Shri Radha, one attains only a drop of the relish of the Krishna ocean. So we remember that Krishna is the ocean of love. He's the creator. He's the maintainer. He's the destroyer. He's the ocean of all love, of all beauty, of all power, of all intelligence. He's all these things, and this in itself is worshipable. This is good. However, the gift of Mahaprabhu is to understand that to live these things, to experience these things, to exchange these things is higher still. To exchange beauty, to experience truth, this is higher than being it. And the appearance of Mahaprabhu in the mood and position of Radha lets Krishna live the ocean of love that he is. He's all love, but he's never understood the experience of loving, of giving this love. And now, through the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he understands, he learns about giving love. Higher than love is loving. Higher than Mohan is Radha, because she is the key to loving. She is the caregiving, the acting, the lover in this partnership. So partly of what Anantadas Babaji is trying to say is that there is inherent goodness in Krishna. There's nothing wrong with the enormous Vedic tradition that carries along the idea that Krishna is all love. But even greater is the gift of Mahaprabhu that teaches that the highest thing in the world is loving itself, and the highest loving is the loving that's done by Radha or for Mohan. And this now Babaji explains in different words, explains what I'm trying to explain too, in different words. He says, Shri Krishna is like a bottomless ocean of sweetness, which is hard to enter into. So as Gurudev often says, we tend to float on the top of the ocean of sweetness. We don't break the surface. We don't dive deep. We float on it. We touch the edge of it. We can maybe see that it's deep, but we're unable to dive into the depth of the experience of it. Babaji says, nevertheless, the greatest way of experiencing God is relishing his sweetness. Relishing his sweetness. Again, he uses the word here, experiencing God and relishing. We're not admiring God from a distance. We're not looking at a picture of God who's beautiful and obviously loving. We're not reading a book about God and about God's love. All these things are true. But the greatest way, says Babaji, of experiencing this, of having it in our own personal experience, of feeling it in our hearts, that is by relishing his sweetness. Relishing is a very special word for us. It's a word we use often in our exchanges, our sharing. And it's nice to meditate on this word. Very, very sweet word, relish, to relish. What is the difference between tasting something and relishing something? So I can take a bite of an apple and I can taste it, or I can relish it. What's the difference? Well, if I taste an apple, my senses, my physical senses say, oh, this is the taste of an apple. I know that's an apple. An apple has this kind of sweetness, this kind of perfume, this kind of texture and flavor. So I can taste an apple and I say, well, that's not a banana. It's not a lemon. It tastes more like an apple. So I can know the difference with my taste between a chutney and a chocolate. It's kind of information of the senses. Chutney tastes like that, and chocolate tastes like that, and I know the difference. It's a kind of taste information. Relishing is something different. Relishing means feeling that bit of apple in my mouth, going deep into it, letting it awaken memories from my childhood or feelings I have for my children, or sensations that I've never had before, or it opens up doors in our hearts, the experience of relishing. It's like diving deep in the ocean. Relishing means going beyond the material senses, going beyond the mind and the intellect, and going deep into the spiritual taste, the spiritual flavor. So the difference between tasting, which is experiencing the surface qualities of something, and relishing, which means connecting it to our inner self. That is a great and beautiful one. And this is the difference between experiencing Krishna's love, floating on top of the ocean of nectar, tasting the ocean because we're touching it, but still we just understand that it's water or it's nectar, but we don't experience it deeply. But relishing means going beneath the surface so that the nectar covers every part of our body, flows into our ears and into the cracks under our arms, and touches every bit between our toes, and it fills and covers everything about us and touches us deeply. This is relishing in the ocean. So this is why we use this special word relish. It means we taste something which takes us into our soul. maybe not completely into our soul, but gives us a little bit of a experience of what is in our soul. Babaji goes on now and says, how can an insignificant living entity ever enter into this ocean of sweetness? So how can normal devotees like us, floating on the top of the water at a distance from Krishna's beauty and love, we see it, we taste it, we know it's there, but how can we, small souls, enter into that? That's the question that Babaji asks. How can we dive beneath the surface, like Gurudev says? How can we make the connection between what we experience with our material senses and what we experience with our spiritual senses? How can we make this nectar flow deeply? And now comes a kind of answer from Babaji. He says, only if the living entities would receive a lot of mercy from a great energy through complete love, would they be able to savor this complete sweetness of Sri Krishna and become blessed. This energy is Sri Radha. This mercy is Radha. The energy that lets that flavor flow deeply into us, not just wash across the surface of our material senses, but go deeply into our souls. That mercy that comes through complete love, that energy of complete love that helps us relish deeply the nectar of divine love, Krishna's love, that energy is Ladani Shakti. That is Radharani. Her energy is exactly the mercy that comes with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It says to us, love is very nice, but love that is given is the greatest. And in order to give love, there must be energy which carries that love. That energy that carries that love is our dear Radharani. So it's the energy that pushes open the doors of our hearts and pushes open the doors of the hearts of those we love. That energy is the power of the river that flows through us, the wind that blows across us. That energy is Radha. Babaji says, just as the ocean of Sri Krishna's, just as the ocean of Sri Krishna's sweetness increases unlimitedly when he is with Sri Radha makes the living entities who surrender to her lotus feet relish Krishna's full sweetness in Sakhi or Manchari Bhav. Not only that, says Babaji, she also makes them relish it even more than she relishes it herself. Okay, two very big ideas here. Let's go slowly. First, Krishna's sweetness increases when he is with Radha. The love that is inherent in Krishna, but which is not given, is released by Radha, the giver of love. Remember, Radha is Krishna himself in the loving, active, caring, feminine mood. So Radha does not let the ocean of love sit still, when Radha is there, that ocean of love is flowing. That energy is released. And when that energy is released, we can taste the nectar. Think that you have a big cup of nectar, and there it is, and maybe you can even smell it with your nose or taste the top of it with your tongue. But once it starts flowing, once it starts pouring down your mouth, down your throat, then the pleasure is increasing because it's being given, because it's being experienced. So when Radha's energy makes Krishna's love start flowing, he can begin to taste it himself, and his sweetness increases. And when the sweetness of Krishna increases, the experience of all devotees is sweetened, because all devotees are part and parcel of the sweetness of Krishna. When Krishna's experience of sweetness grows, so grows the experience of sweetness of the devotees. But then Babaji says one very mysterious thing. He says, I repeat what I read before, not only that, Radha makes them, the Manjaris, relish it even more than she relishes it herself. The Manjaris relish more than Radha. What does this mean? Well, let's remember that the Manjari is the mood in which we love the love of Radha and Mohan. We love the love of Radha and Mohan. So when we, in our Manjari Bhav, see that love increasing, our pleasure, our happiness increases even more than hers, because our happiness comes from her happiness. Our happiness comes from the happiness of the loving couple, the love that flows between Radha and Mohan. So when that love is flowing, the Manjaris are particularly pleased. Then they've succeeded in their task. They've succeeded in their seva. Only Manjaris can understand this. Only Manjaris can understand the beauty of the love of Radha and Mohan. Only they have that intimate position from which to see it. And that, in a way, is really the gift of Mahaprabhu. Yes, he comes and displays the active love of Radha and Mohan, but he also gives to us a position, a point of view, which is called Manjari Bhav, from which we can witness that love. The love of Radha and Mohan, something that Mohan doesn't witness because he's deep in it, something that Radha doesn't witness because she's deep in it, but that Manjari, from this position close by but outside, can witness. In a very wonderful and strange way, the Manjari position is even greater than the position of Radha and Mohan, because she is there to relish the success of their loving relation. Now Babaji is going to go back to this famous sharing between Rayananda Rai and Chaitanya in Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's in the Madhya Lila, chapter 8. He quotes now, Babaji quotes, Radha is a desire vine of love, and the Sakis are the buds, leaves, flowers of that vine. When that vine is sprinkled with the nectar of Krishna's pastimes, the buds and flowers experience millions of times more happiness than the vine herself. So here we have Krishnadas Kaviraj saying in a much more beautiful and poetic way what I was trying to say. Radha is the desire vine of love for Krishna. So if Krishna is the tree, the solid mass of love, then the vine which wraps around the tree is the desire for that love. And on that vine, which is Radha, we have the manjaris and the sakis, the buds and the leaves and the flowers. So when that vine flourishes, when it grows, when that vine, which is Radha, receives energy, the desire flows between Radha and Mohan, that energy comes also to the manjaris, to the buds, and to the leaves, and these grow even more, and in a way that cannot be observed by the vine, cannot be observed by the tree. They grow, on their own. So Krishnadas Kaviraj says the buds and flowers experience millions of times more happiness than the vine.
Again repeat. Beautiful. What you are doing, Baba. Beautiful, beautiful.
So
very
nice.
Great. Repeat again, please.
We have a quotation from Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's Rayananda Rai who's explaining to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu the nature of the relation of Radha and Mohan and Manjari. And he says, Radha is the desire vine of love for Krishna. And the sakis are the buds and leaves and flowers of that vine. When that vine is sprinkled with the nectar of Krishna's pastimes, the buds and flowers experience millions of times more happiness than the vine herself. So the miracle of this relation between Radha and Mohan and Manjari is that the Manjaris experience it in a way that's even greater than what Radha and Mohan experience. So here, if Krishna is the tree, massive and great and strong and beautiful and full of love, Radha is the vine that creeps and wraps herself around that love, takes energy from that love and makes that love flow. And when that love flows through the vine, what happens? The buds bloom, the leaves become great and green. And so this beauty of the flowers on the vine of Radha become greater and greater through the nectar that flows when Radha and Mohan, the vine and the tree, are having their pastimes. So what the buds and the flowers experience is something different than what Radha and Mohan experience, and something greater in a way. They are outside of the vine and the tree, and yet they are part of it. They are there at the pastime in the kunj, but they are outside of it, and they watch it and they experience it they experience all of it. They experience what Radha cannot see because she's engulfed in the arms of Mohan, and they see what Mohan cannot see because he is lost in his passion for Radha. So they experience all the sides of it. So Bhavalas Rati, this idea of complete absorption in passion, this is the mood of the Manjari. Very privileged position that is created through Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And this is why now recently, the last year, Gurudev has been teaching us that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes in three aspects, not just two, not just Radha and Mohan, but Radha and Mohan and this Manjari position, which is greater than the other two, according to Chaitanya Charitamrita. Now Babaji comments on this quotation from Chaitanya Charitamrita. He says, they, meaning the Manjaris, they experience happiness 1,000,000 times more because Shri Radha can relish the great sweetness of Krishna with them. But the Sakis and Manjaris who are surrendered to her lotus feet can relish the sweetness of both Radha and Krishna when they are together. I repeat. The Manjaris experience happiness 1,000,000 times more because Shri Radha can relish the great sweetness of Krishna with them. But the Sakis and Manjaris who are surrendered to her lotus feet can relish the sweetness of both Radha and Krishna when they are together.
Wow.
We can also think of this, I think, if we remember the Rasa dance. The gopis are relishing the sweetness of Krishna. And at one point, Radha is one of the gopis, and she's relishing together with the gopis. And this is all very sweet and enjoyable. But when the gopis realize that Radha has a very special relationship, and they surrender to her and begin to serve her love for Mohan, then they obtain, certain of them obtain Manjari Bhav and can relish the relationship from a higher level. Manjari relishes not only Radha, not only Mohan, but the fact that there's a loving energy flowing between them.
No, this line again read.
Yes.
One book.
They experience, so they, the Manjaris, experience happiness 1,000,000 times more because Shri Radha can relish the great sweetness of Krishna with them, but the Sakis and Manjaris who are surrendered to her lotus feet can relish the sweetness of both Radha and Krishna when they are together. And there's one more line I hadn't read by Babaji. He says, they can also relish the wonderful savor of the service to the sweet couple and thus be blessed. So when they're alone with people, please go to them.
Go can change also in Manjari Bhav, like this you read something.
There was the quotation from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Or earlier, Babaji said, just as the ocean of Shri Krishna's sweetness increases unlimitedly when he is with Shri Radha, Shri Radha makes the living entities who surrender to her lotus feet relish Krishna's full sweetness in Saki or Manjari Bhav. Not only that,
you say.
Not only that, she also makes them relish it even more than she relishes it herself.
Yeah.
That's Babaji saying. Babaji goes on, the worship of Radha and Krishna in the mood of the Manjaris is the highest stage the living entity can attain in the kingdom of divine flavors through the practice of loving devotional service. The worship of Radha and Krishna in the mood of Manjari is the highest stage the living entity can attain in the kingdom of divine flavors through the practice of loving devotional service. That's the highest place we can come. We jivas. Means also we don't want Krishna alone, we don't want Radha alone, we want them together. That's the highest. We want their exchange, we want their prema.
So Manjari always inspired to Radha Rani to meet with Krishna by decoration, by this.
Shri Radha.
Putting exciting to reminding to.
Now Babaji continues, for this reason, Sri Raghunathas Goswami, though he is Nitya Siddha Manjari, has instructed the aspiring devotees of the world to become attached, to become more attached to the lotus feet of Shri Shri Radha Madhava on the pretext of instructing his own mind. I read again. For this reason, Sri Raghunathas Goswami, though he is Nitya Siddha Manjari, has instructed the aspiring devotees of the world to become more attached to the lotus feet of Shri Shri Radha Madhava on the pretext of instructing his own mind. So Babaji is saying, well, Raghunath is Nitya Siddha Manjari, he's the top level of perfection in Manjari Bhav. But he writes this nice Manah Siksa for us as a way of talking to his mind and telling us, guiding us the right way to go in order to reach our own goals. He doesn't need it because he's Nitya Siddha Manjari. So he writes this as though he needed it. What Babaji is saying. And the main instruction is, particularly in this last part of the first Siksa, which is telling us what things we should focus our love on. The most important is to become attached to the lotus feet of Radha Mohan. And Babaji says, it's no wonder that a devotee who follows the instructions only of even this one verse, what to speak of all the other verses, will invoke a benediction for his sadhana. So this first verse is so great that this will, it's almost the only one we need. And now actually he repeats it, the lesson, so I'll repeat it with him. O mind, my brother, I pray to you. Always give up your pride and lovingly take shelter of your Gurudev's lotus feet, which are the abode of devotion to Hari. Always offer your obeisances to all the moving and non-moving living entities of the transcendental abode named Vrindavan, thereby shedding tears of love and holding a piece of cloth around the neck in humble submission. Always associate with the saintly Vaishnavas, who are the great teachers of loving devotion and who are redeeming one fallen soul after the other. If you always engage in their service like a menial servant, all your devotional desires will be fulfilled.
Yes.
He goes on. Serve Shri Krishna's most beloved Brahmanas, for they can give you auspicious blessings. If you serve them, the Lord of all the worlds will be very pleased with you. The initiation mantra is invested with the grace of the Guru. Practice this mantra and take shelter of it. Madana Mohana will be so attracted to this king of mantras that he will reveal himself to you in Vrindavan. The holy name of Hari, which emanated from the mouth of Mahaprabhu, is filled with all transcendental potencies and is the source of auspiciousness to the whole world. Hear and chant this holy name and repeat it day and night. This will result in ecstatic love of Krishna. And then finally, O mind, the 9 jewel-like types of devotion with care and worship, the lotus feet of the divine couple. Holding a straw between my teeth, I speak this flattering words to you, and I pray to your feet. So holding a straw in the teeth like this, it's a sign of humbleness.
Humble.
And the 9 jewels, you remember the 9 jewels of devotion, listening, sravanam, kirtanam, singing, smarana, remembering, padasevanam, serving, achanam, worshipping, vandanam, offering prayers, dasyam, considering oneself a servant, sakyam, treating God as a friend, a close friend, and atmanivedanam, surrendering oneself completely to God. And that's the end of this commentary for the first teaching, the Siksa N of Raghunath Das Goswami. And a good place to stop for today. Next week we'll continue with the second teaching. And now there's time for sharing or questions or comments or anything you might like to bring.
just great. I just want to thank you for nice sharing. Really deal with us this year. Great realization. Thank you once again very much.
Jai Shri Radha.
Jai Shri Radha.
Jai Shri Radha. Thank you, everybody. Have a lovely evening.
Beautiful, beautiful. So nice you explain. So inside, real sadhana happens. Thank you.
Just with love. Okay. See you soon, everyone. Radha.
Happy.